East Coast fever, the age-old nightmare of herders in East Africa, is a cattle disease similar to malaria in humans. East Coast fever can wipe out the bulk of an entire herd in as little as 3 weeks. Each year, hundreds of millions of dollars are lost to the disease. The culprit, a parasite transmitted by a tick. Most people would cringe at the sight of the blood-sucking ticks, but Esther Kanduma, a Kenyan PhD student, is anything but squeamish. Ticks are her business. She studies their genetic diversity.
This involves collecting field ticks from different agroecological zones in Kenya. I would be traveling to areas where East Coast fever is a problem. And you drag a sheet of green pastures. Usually during the wet rainy season, there are lots of ticks, and then they would get stuck into the sheet. The preferred site of attachment in cattle is usually the ear of cattle.
Oli Kiret in the Kajiado district in southern Kenya. This is one of the hotspots of East Coast fever. Ture Oli Katipa, a Maasai elder who has 150 cows and 300 goats, says the disease has been the bane of his life.
For a long time, it's been such a big problem that if you had 50 cows, only 20 survived. We just found out that there's an infection and treatment method, and we've been using it.
Infection and treatment is a first-generation vaccine. To date, it's been very efficient in immunising the cattle. Only it's a costly process and not readily available in Kenya. Meanwhile, Esther's research is helping increase the understanding of the ticks. She works at Becker, Biosciences for Eastern and Central Africa, an institute funded mainly by the Canadian Development Agency and the Syngenta Foundation for Sustainable Agriculture. Becker has become a hub for African scientists who research vaccines for livestock and crops that are resistant to drought and diseases. Seganet Kelemu, the director of Becker, says the facility will reduce the brain drain of African scientists to Europe or the US.
This is really a great time for science, for African science, because of the financial crisis globally, the climate change, drought, the food crisis. I think it made policymakers focus more maybe in agriculture and look for some new tools in improving agriculture. And many donors have focused also on boosting African scientists to work and find solution for their own problems, for their own regions and for their own people.